Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to get started. I know Sandra is on her way. The reason why I'm saying that is because the shiur tonight is sponsored by Sandra Finkelstein in honor of her son Alec and his 21st birthday. So he should have all the brachas in the world that he needs, and she should get a ton of nachas from him and from her other son. We should all experience the Simcha and nachas of these things together in Mitzvah Hashem. Okay, and everybody should remember that we're coming up to our big fundraiser. You know, like I like to say, we don't do fundraisers here. We generally run without. Well, we have enough money. This is just to keep our renovation, pay for our renovation, and keep us going strong. So keep your eye out for the ability to join in on our campaign. Emir Hashem, we need a little bit of help, but after that we're going strong. So thank you to everybody for that as well. So we're holding now in Torah, Torah Chaf Dalet, close to the end. We're at letter Tes, number 9 in this book. We're at page 94, and we're going to finish this Torah today, God willing. So we really finished the whole part, most of the part of the Torah that was in the language of Rabbi Nachman, that Rabbi Nachman wrote down. We're now going to see a part that Rabbi Nosson kind of injected in before the very end of the Torah, which goes through and gives a little bit of a sort of more wordy explanation of this deep concept that we learned last week, because it's very, very deep and very hard. And we'll see, Mitzvah Hashem, if we have time, we'll try to get to some practical things and see from the Likutei Tefillas the way that Reb Nosson understood how we can relate to this lesson on a personal level. So, if you remember, the pathway of this lesson and the way that it goes is that Rabbi Nachman wants us to get on board with doing mitzvos with Simcha. Every mitzvah we do should be with Simcha. And by doing that, we really begin a chain reaction of elevating our energy up to Shemayim, through all the kabbalistic worlds and systems. And it creates all these different growth patterns, and creates zivugim, and creates all these amazing things that then will shower down bracha onto us, will give us bracha, blessing. And we talked about the different aspects of the spheros, first going from Malchus to Netzach Hod and Yesod, which are like the legs, and the legs move upwards and enclose the hands of Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferes, and the hands are the things that give the blessing, give bracha to us. And then it elevates up, those go elevate up into the moichin of Chachma and Bina and Das, and in that place we draw blessing into the intellect, but we have to be careful that we don't go crazy with our intellect and use our own intellect in a way that's going to be damaging to us. So we always have to draw emunah into there. It has to be that we never rely only on our own thoughts and our own intellect. We always have to have a strong dose of emunah in our intellect, and that will cause us to keep raising higher and higher and higher. And when we do this, we're drawing down from a very low place. We're drawing down from the place of Malchus, which is connected directly to the realm of Klippa, to the place where all negative spiritual forces are. And so, when we're doing this, we're also pulling up, we're lifting things up that are in a place far away from holiness. Through this channel, we're doing mitzvahs down here in the place of Malchus, the place where this world is difficult and confusing and dark, and we don't see Hashem clearly in the world, right? And it's specifically this place that we're able to do this and pull holiness out from this place. This is something that is very special to Hashem, and that is something that Rabbi Nachman talks about all the time. Bringing things from far away closer to Hashem is a very, very special, precious thing to Hashem. So this is part of the whole thing. And the last thing we said last week is when we get to that place, very, very high up in intellect, the world of Keser is the sphere of Keser acts as a block, a ceiling that stops our thoughts from progressing too far, from going out in places they're not supposed to go. And it creates like a curtain, like a blockage. And it's our desire to reach Hashem and our thoughts to move close to Hashem. It's called redifas hamachshavos. Our thoughts are chasing after Hashem. We want to get higher and higher. We want to connect on a deeper and deeper level. We want spirituality. We want Kabbalah. We want ruchnius, whatever you want to call it. We want it. But if we would just keep going and going and going, we'd go out of our brains. And we wouldn't actually attach to anything. We just go crazy. So we have this thing called Keser, which is the mesader and the miyashev of our intellect. It orders, organizes, calms, and contains that crazy intellect that we can have, right? And it's through us constantly moving up and bouncing sort of up against that higher level of existence that creates these tisha heichalos, these 9 vessels, chambers that can hold the light of Hashem. And we don't get to touch them, if you remember. We don't get to experience them. We don't get to see them. We don't get to know them. But we've done something in this avodah. We've created something that brings some type of blessing from Hashem, that even though we don't see it directly, it shines something on us. It gives us some type of illumination, some type of inspiration, some type of something that is beyond our ability to see, beyond our ability to understand, but it's there. And he said at the end of this all that this is we really mean by the statement that we say sometimes, Tachlis hayediyah deloy yeda, that the ultimate level of knowing, of knowledge, the ultimate level of understanding is actually not knowing. And in here, it's the best. Because we're working and trying, and something happens that we don't even get to know about. We don't even get it, but it gives us something, right? And that's kind of where we left off last time. So we're going to see, I'm just turning off the air conditioning so everyone doesn't freeze over here. 1 second.
I so wanted to do with Kessel. It's incredible.
Okay, so we're holding now letter test over here. So now Reb Nosson is going to go through a bit of a wordy explanation of everything that we just said about this idea of Keser and the Redifas HaMachshavos. And then we'll finish off the Torah, and then we'll get to some, hopefully, practical understandings. Let's see if we can pull it all off. Test 94. This idea that we just learned is very, very, very deep. Who can possibly grasp it? Kamuvan lamaskil, like anyone, like someone who really understands will know. Vakasher ramaz li Rabbeinu, when Rabbi Nachman hinted this over to me, ba'atzmai, himself, goydal amkus hasoid hanoira hazeh, the great depth of this wondrous secret, shemagia l'mayla l'mayla, that reaches higher and higher and higher up. Kamavor batera zois l'mayan, like if someone really goes into this to understand. V'achreich lavar hadavar katas. So I have to explain it. I'm forced that I have to explain it a little bit better, says Reb Nosson. So here he goes. Here's what it is. Ki ha-keser hu ha-meyashev va-masader es ha-moichin. The keser, this level of keser, this kabbalistic sphera of keser, is the level above the moichin, above the chacham bina, above our intellect, and it is the thing that acts as a container, an organizer, and a settler of the mind. It's the power that we have in our intellect to organize and calm our brain. In order so that it doesn't breach its borders and go outside of the realm where it's supposed to be. This power is the power of Keser. So if you look into Likutei Tfilos, by the way, where the Breslov Mashpiyim tell us that the Likutei Tfilos, by the way, if we don't know, is the sefer that Reb Nosson wrote, where he wrote a prayer for many of the lessons in Likutei Moharan, because this is something that Rabbi Nachman said is very important. You can't just learn the lesson intellectually. You have to take it and get it into your heart and make it so that it becomes part of you. How do you do that? You have to daven it. You have to make a tefillah out of it. You have to daven the message of this lesson. And so what he does in these tefillahs is he brings out the way to make it practical, the way that we need to do it, right? And so in other words, what it should really mean to us practically. So one of the things he says over here about this part that the Keser is something that acts like a container, a containment field, sort of, and an organizer, and something that organizes and settles our thoughts and our minds. One of the things he says that Rabbi Nachman, you probably remember, was always very careful about. Rabbi Nachman warned us against the dangers of getting involved in thought processes that take us off of our path. And in their times in particular, it was really philosophy. Because philosophy at that time was something that was very secular and was used as a tool to pull Jews away from religion. Right? So it still applies now, the same thing to philosophy. But there's other things also now, right? There's all these things like you can, if you start taking the cover off of internet rabbit holes, you could find yourself spending hours, days, weeks looking into these crazy things that may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. We don't need to be there, right? We don't need to go into these places of fear and like conspiracies and sometimes the conspiracies are true. But it doesn't really matter. It's not for us. It's not going to help us. It's not going to change us. We have so much to do, so many good things to do in our lives right in front of us. And to get pulled off on these things, we're just going to be gone, totally away from what our real path is and our real ability is every day to do good in the world, right? So he says that this aspect of, particularly with philosophy, and I think he would agree the way we're explaining it now, if I could humbly say, is one of the aspects. It cuts off and says, hold on a second, that's a place where your mind is not supposed to go. If your mind goes wild over physical desires also, and you start, picturing and imagining these things in the realm of physical desires, it's the same thing. Your mind is going too much. Too many thoughts are moving, right? So there has to be something that is mesader, that means organizes, puts the right things there, and is miyashev, and settles, calms the mind and puts it in the right place. This is the aspect of Keser over here. But when we have that there, and we have thoughts that are just shooting for Hashem, or shooting for the highest of the high, I want to see Hashem, I want to see the infinite light, the Or Ein Sof, I want to touch Hashem, I want to see Hashem, I want to get there, right? When we're looking for that, and we have this, that back and forth of reaching and hitting creates this aspect that we call of mati v'lo mati, that I reach it but I don't actually reach it. And that, what we're saying over here, causes some kind of amazing light and some kind of amazing existence way above us that has some type of special effect on us that we can't see, we can't grasp, we can't know, nothing, but it does something for us. It gives us light, it gives us inspiration. This is what we're talking about over here. So this is the koyach hamisader v'hamiyashev of the sphere of Keser. V'zeh koyach hu kamoy mechitza hamafsekes bein hamoichin ubein haor ein sof. It's like this power of Keser is like a mechitza, a wall that separates between the intellect and between the infinite light of Hashem, the Or Ein Sof. This power of settling and organizing, it prevents and blocks the intellect at the time when it's reaching and running and pursuing, that it shouldn't go past the place it's supposed to go, to Hashem, above its borders. Because our mind is searching and running to grasp the infinite light of Hashem. This power to block and to settle and to organize, which is the power of Keser, it stands between them like a mechitza, like a wall, and stops them from pursuing. Okay. Valyadei is a lot of repetition over here. He's trying to make sure we understand. Valyadei radifa haradifa v'hama'akev, and it's through this pursuing and this prevention of moving forward. This that we're trying to reach Hashem, we're trying to understand Hashem and touch the Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem. And the power of the blockage, which is the settling and the organizing of the power of Keser. Through these two aspects, mevatshin umakin, they hit, they smack together the brains, the moichin, with that mechitza, against that blockage, which is the organizer and the settler. And it's through this that chambers are created for the infinite light of Hashem. Remember, we said in Kabbalah that it's when two lights touch and hit together that vessels are created. Two lights, an or makif and an or panimi hit together. That's when vessels are created. So this in the higher worlds, when we are using our thoughts to pursue Hashem, that's a certain aspect of our light reaching forward. And when it hits that sphere of Keser, it creates vessels. Like if you imagine, the way to think about it is, if you imagine what it looks like in a blacksmith shop, right? When they're creating things. So what do? They have to heat the metal up, so it's very hot, and then they're hitting it, they're banging it into shape, they're pounding it out into shape, right? It's through that concept of hitting in the spiritual world also. It's like a mirror that vessels are created. It creates vessels and chambers in the highest upper worlds in order so that we can grasp the Or Ein Sof, the light of the infinite light of Hashem, blessed is He, through this aspect of mati v'lemati, that I get there but I don't get there. I reach it but I don't reach it. There's some connection that we don't fully get to grasp. I love this. I love things that we're not allowed to grasp, that we don't get to grasp. Right? It's very special. If we didn't have this ma'akev, and if we didn't have this thing that blocked us from pursuing and running after Hashem, what would happen? This is awesome to understand. Our intellect would become totally batal, would be nullified, would be lost completely. Our minds would be nullified and lost. Why? We'd be totally nullified. Misbatal means to be completely absorbed and lost completely in a bigger thing. Like the word batal, by the way, if you have you have a big bowl of soup, meat soup, and one little drop of milk falls in it, right? Okay. By accident. And it gets mixed in so you can't see it or anything. What does that mean? What happens? It's kosher still. We can't have meat and milk together, but why is it still kosher? Because that one little drop gets totally lost. It's gone. We say that there's not one little drop of milk there. The whole thing is just a meat soup. It's like that drop doesn't even exist because it's lost within the whole thing, right? That's the concept of being batal. This is where, in a certain way, what we aim for is that we want to be mevatal ourselves. We want to become batal to the light of Hashem. Right? We want to just be like a channel, a conduit for the light of Hashem in some way. But he's saying over here, when we're not ready for that, it can happen in a way that's not good. If we didn't have something blocking us from reaching higher and higher, then we would go too high into the place where the light is too bright. And that tremendous light would just vaporize us. We'd be gone. We wouldn't exist anymore. We'd be batal. We'd be nullified. We'd be like that little drop of milk in this whole gigantic place of the light, infinite light of Hashem. We'd be one drop in infinity that doesn't exist. That can't be. So we have to. So that's why it's meant to be there. We're not ready for this yet, right? We'd be totally misbatal, nullified. Because we cannot grasp the light of the Ein Sof. But only through these two aspects, which is that we get to go pretty high, but then we get stopped. And through this we make a blockage and we make vessels that can receive some aspect of that light of Hashem. So once again, another concept in Kabbalah that we have to know for this is that a vessel in the kabbalistic concepts, it's not just that we need something to hold the light. This is all not physical, right? These are all just words that are used to help us to have some type of understanding of what's happening. But what it means is that it allows the light to be lessened. A vessel means that you don't have to take everything in. it's brought into a smaller amount, a smaller quality of that light. It's like a filter almost that allows that light to come in a way that we can grasp. That's what a vessel is in Kabbalah. So this aspect of searching, mati v'le mati, means some kind of vessel is created way above us that brings that light down in a way, but it's not our vessel, right? It's a vessel that's above us. So it brings it down in some way that it has some type of effect on us, but it's not our vessel that we receive into us, right? It's like if you imagine that if you grow plants in your house hydroponically, right? Let's say you have I don't know what people grow, but you can grow tomatoes like this in like a greenhouse, whatever it is. So there's the sun outside, right? And the sun gives light to all the plants and gives them what they need, right? But if you don't have light, so you have to put up special kind of lights that give the plants the kind of light that they need so that they can grow, right? But imagine you have a light for your plants, but then like underneath that on a lower shelf, there's another plant there, and the light doesn't go directly on it. It doesn't really get it, but it gets a little bit of some type of shine from there that does something to it. It gives it a little bit, but it's not meant for that plant itself, right? This is something that we're talking about here. I'm making this up as I go along here, by the way, like I like to do. But I hope you understand. It means that we're getting something from it, but it's not the whole thing. We're just barely able to grasp it. This is mati v'le mati. Uperush mati v'le mati yadua lamavinim. This explanation, mati v'le mati, you grasp it but you don't grasp it, is known to those who understand it. That means you got to chap in. You got to have some deeper knowledge to get it. Dahainu shemagia ve'eno magia. It means we reach it but we don't reach it. Sheroidev umagia lahasig. We're reaching, we're searching, chasing, and we're reaching to be able to grasp it. But we don't grasp it. That aspect is created through this chasing and being blocked. And even though it makes these chambers, we don't know it, and they're not known, and there's no person that can grasp them. We can't be connected to them, and they can't be known. It's not possible to form an image in our minds of these holy chambers that are way, 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 way above us. Lamala mikol hasichles. They're above all intellect. It's a deep thing to say. I hope you're hearing it. Meaning, it's something that is above our intellect. Whatever we think we can understand, whatever type of diagram we could show, whatever type of scientific formula we could show to do it, whatever mushal we could try, like a allegory we could try to create to understand it. This is something that is beyond our ability to grasp even what we're talking about. It's something way, way up there. Our intellect can't. We don't have the vocabulary. We don't have the way to understand it. It's way, 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 way up there. It's even above the spheres, the 10 spheres that we talk about all the time, right? When we talk about the 10 spheres, we're giving our own names, not our own, but we're using words that we understand to talk about things that we do not understand. We're saying how they relate to the human body in the way that they're made, and they have attributes, human type of attributes, like kindness, chesed, gevur, kindness, and severity, and balance. Right? They have these aspects, but really, we're just doing our best using the words that we can to understand something that is way, way above us that we can't really understand. Right? I remember hearing from one of the Mukbalim, they said that if anyone ever comes to you and tells you that they know what the spheres are, right away you know that they have no idea what they're talking about. All the words we have in Kabbalah are just a little tipa, a drop of some type of understanding that we try our best to have about something that we can't understand. This is the whole system of the spheres. And he's saying that this concept that we're learning now is above that, way above that. It's even above that understanding, right? Everybody happy? Now we know that we don't know anything? If we know that we don't know anything, we're on the right track. Okay, Ayin Sham Heitev. So go see in the Torah that Rabbi Nachman wrote. Look very well over there. V'tavin, and understand. Shlei hasafti shum davar klal. I didn't add anything to it, says Reb Nosson. Ki b'chlal davarav davarai. Whatever, the things that I just said are just coming right from what he said. Rak chazarti ube'arti hadavarim k'tzas. Just, I went over them again, I repeated them, and explained them a little bit more. Lagoydel oitzem amkusam ad ein sof. Because of their, let's say, their tremendous depth, which is deeper, which is as deep as the infinite. And it's because of this that 9 chambers are created from this, specifically 9 chambers. Why? Because the intellectual faculties are 3, which are what? Chachma, Bina, and Das, or Keser Chachma Bina. Let's say Chachma, Bina, and Das. Right? Umachmas redivasam v'hakasam b'hama'akev. And because they are going up and they're fighting and they're chasing and they're hitting against this barrier of Keser, right? The 3 of them are hitting against there and they're banging and hitting and smacking and creating all kinds of spiritual sparks and whatnot, right? What's happening? They kind of take from each other as they're doing this whole thing. And it becomes that each one of them is one of 3. So, in other words, you'll have like if I could, and 3 times 3 is 9. And that's why we have these 9 chambers over here. So, in other words, you see by Siras Ha'omer, where you have in the 7 lower midos, you'll have like chesed shebechesed, gevura shebechesed. They're connected. So here you could have, if you have chachma, bina, and das, you could have chachma of chachma, bina of chachma, and das of chachma. Then you can have Chachma of Bina, and Bina of Bina, and Das of Bina. Then you can have Chachma of Das, and Bina of Das, and Das of Das. 9 altogether is what we're talking about over here. Now we understand everything very clearly. That's a joke. We still don't understand. Ashrei mi sheyizke leilech v'lalos b'derech hakodesh. Fortunate and happy is the person who merits to go, to walk, to move forward, and to elevate themselves in this holy way. Hanemar b'Torah hazois, that is said over in this Torah, ad sheyizke l'asagos eila, until we get to these tremendous levels of perception. In other words, he's saying, follow what Rabbi Nachman told you over here, and you're going to get eventually to these very high levels of understanding. And remember, it's all each person on their own level. This will do something for all of us. He's talking about getting to these highest levels that the biggest tzaddikim get. But for us also, a similar thing is going to happen, maybe just not on such a high level. It's still going to work for us, right? Okay, so now we're going to just see, before we get to the practical part, we're just going to see how the letter Yud is how everything that we learned in this entire Torah ties back to the very beginning, which was the second, I think, discussion of Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya and the Sabei de Be'atuna, the wise men of Athens. Everybody remember? So here's how it started. It said, they said, the wise men of Athens asked Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya the question, where is the center of the universe? Zakva letzbasa, he stuck up his hand, his finger, Amar lahu hacha, and said to them, here. Amar le mi yemar, who says that that's where it is? Amar, he said back to them, Aisu ashlu moishchu. Bring a rope and measure it for yourself. You don't believe me? Bring a rope and measure it for yourself. That was the discussion between the two of them. Now, for those of you, I think not everybody was here at the beginning of this Torah and this set of Torahs. This is brought from discussions from the Talmud, from the Gemara, which are between the wise men of Athens and the biggest Jewish Chacham at the time, real Chacham, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. And there are all these seemingly, on the surface level, silly conversations that seem to be like, I don't know, weird, let's just say. But really, they're very, very, very deep, and Rabbi Nachman is explaining the depth of all of these conversations, or a number of them. So let's see now how this all fits into this over here. Zeh sheshalu sabed be'atuna. And this now, at the end of this Torah, this whole thing we did, this is what they were really asking Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. This is what the conversation really meant. Where's the center of the universe? He put up his finger and said, here. They said to him, who says? He said to them, bring a rope and measure. They asked him, how do we grasp? How do we reach? How are we going to reach the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem? Shu Emtzad Alma, which is the center of the universe, meaning the center and the source of everything. How can we get there? They asked. Shemimenu hakol shoyev in chiyus v'shefa. Why is the Or Ein Sof called the center of the universe? Because that's the place. It's the central source of everything, right? That's why it's called the center. That's what they asked him. How do we get to Hashem? How do we get to the infinite? How do we get to the infinite? That's it. Zakva espas. So he lifted up his hand and brought up his finger. Zeh bechinas brachos. That's the aspect of blessing, bracha. If you remember in the Torah, we said the level of hands of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, which are the hands. That's the level of blessing, bracha. Kanal bechinas vayisa Aaron es yada v'yavarchem. That Aaron lifted up his hands and blessed them. The pasuk says about Aaron HaKohen. He lifted up his hands and blessed them. And that's the way the Kohanim bless with their fingers, right? They bless with their hands. Hainu sha'al yedei habrachos. So what was he saying? How is that an answer to them? He was saying that through the brachas that we're creating in this system that Rabbi Nachman taught us over here, midvatshin hamoichin bekeser, we eventually cause that the intellects are going to hit that top level of keser, v'nasin hecholin, and create these chambers. That's getting us as close as we can get to the infinite, right? It's through this whole concept. How did this whole Torah go? We started with doing a mitzvah besimcha. That's in the level of malchus, an action, besimcha. When we do that, it goes up. We cause malchus to arise and go and enclose the levels of netzachod and yesod, which are the legs, and they get aroused and begin moving. And they now ascend up to the level of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, which is the level of the hands, which are the place of blessing. And when that happens, then the blessing goes up to the level of intellect, which is Chochmah, Bin, and Das, let's say, right? And at that place, the blessing goes into the intellect. And the intellect begins to run and go crazy. So we have to draw down Emunah into that place from the Keser above it. And that level of Keser above it, which is going to be the Emunah, is going to be the thing that stops our brains from going crazy. When the intellect gets blessed, now it has power. It can't go crazy. We have to contain it. It has to be contained by the Keser. And when that happens, it hits there, this is what we were just talking about, and creates these vessels that draw down the infinite into it and give something to us. Right? That's what he said. That's what he said to them. V'amrulei mi yemar. So they said back to him, who says so? So the lashon of yemar over here, usually when you say the word amar to say, its shorish is aleph mem resh, amar, right? This is mi yemar, yud mem resh. So there's another word in Hebrew that relates to this, which is the word for tamura, which means something that's exchanged for something else. And the aspect of the world of klipa, the world of negative spiritual forces, is sometimes referred to, the way we relate to it, as heichal hatmuras, the chamber of exchanges. Why? Because it's in this realm where the evil side tries to show itself as being good and draws us in to that place, right? And it tries to pull goodness into its place of evil, right? So it's exchanging. It's trying to pull in good and turn it into evil. But we can do the opposite. We can go into that place of evil and pull out and bring it up to good. We can exchange it. It's the chamber of exchanges, right? Sounds like a movie title. Chamber of exchanges, right? So let me read now. Who is such a person who can go into the Heichal Tamuras, who can go down into this place, the chamber of exchanges? L'makom HaKlipas, to the place of klipa, the place of spiritual evil, of evil forces. Lahalos misham kedusha b'chinas ketoris, to raise up from there the kedusha, to pull out holiness from there, like the ketoris, like the incense. V'sha'al yedei aliyasa yis'ali habrachas, and that through doing that, they're going to cause the brachas to go up and up and up, and eventually cause these vessels to be created, and to cause us to be able to grasp in a certain way the infinite. Who could do such a thing? How could you do it? How could you do it? It doesn't make sense. It's too hard. Why was it incense, by the way? Why was it corresponding to incense? If you remember, we said that we have 10 spheres, right? And every universe has 10 spheres. Every person has 10 spheres. Everything in existence has 10 spheres. And even Zelumazeh, there's even 10 spheres of evil, of klipa, right? However, we said that together with those 10 spheres of klipa, they can't exist. Nothing can exist in the world without Hashem. So if there's 10 spheres of evil, they still have to have one aspect of Hashem that gives them their existence. Otherwise they couldn't exist at all. So really, they have 11. Really, in the realm of klipa, there's 11. And just like that, there's 11 herbs and spices in the kernel. I'm sorry, joke. In the ketoris, in the incense, there's 11 spices. Why? Because the incense itself has this power to be able to subdue the realm of klipa, and to ward off evil and klipa, right? So the Beis Hamikdash was always filled with the smell of ketoris, of incense. I'm saying in my mind, I don't know. Right? So that's what it did. Who can do such a thing? Who can go down? Who can begin this process? Remember, the process begins with being down in the world of action, being in the physical world where it's dark and confusing, and we're right close to and mixed in with K'ma'at, the realm of Klipa. How can you possibly do this? They're saying to Mishra ben Chananya. How can you make everything rise up to the top, so that eventually it's gonna bring this tremendous blessing and we're gonna grasp in our own way, grasp but not grasp, the light of the Ein Sof. How could it happen? Mi yemar, and that's what it means. Mi yemar. It's the same shorish. Yemar is the same shorish as the word for tamura, the exchange. Ki hamer yimirenu, says the pasuk. V'hashev lahem, v'heshiv lahem, and he answered them. Aisu ashle u'moishchu. Bring a rope and measure. Okay, this is a little bit hard to understand, but we're going to make it. Hainu, ikar ha'aliyas ha'kedusha, the main way that kedusha is able to ascend out from this place is al yadei, everybody knows, simcha. The way to pull the kedusha up from the yucky places is through simcha. Ula asid, and in the future, when Mashiach comes, B'tzeis Yisrael mehagalus, when Klal Yisrael comes out of exile, out of galus, it's going to be b'simcha. Kamoy shekatzav, like the pasuk says, ki b'simcha seitzeu, because in simcha you will leave, you will go out from galus. Va'az yichlu klipas legamre, and then the klipas are going to be wiped out forever completely. V'zeh, and this is what it means, aisu ashle, bring a rope. What's pshat? Hainu, al yedeichem v'al korchachem yisbatlu haklipas. This means what? That it's through you and against your will that the forces of klipa will be wiped out. Ki atem ba'atzmachem taviu es beis Yisrael me'agalos. You got, he's speaking to the klipas now, by the way. It's you klipas, it's going to be your own fault. It's going to be because of you that you are going to be wiped out. For some reason, Rabbi Nachman is talking to the klipas. I don't get exactly. Ki atem ba'atzmachem, you yourselves, taviu es beis Yisrael me'agalos, are going to pull Yisrael out of galus. You yourself, klipas, are going to take Yisrael out of galus. Hanikroim ashle, which is called ashle. Hainu chevel nachalasai. It's called the inheritance. So the rope of your inheritance. This is what Klal Yisrael is called. So it means that the forces of Klipa, the nations that tried to enslave us, that tried to keep us down, are actually going to be the ones who pull us out of galus, right? Like the pasuk says, "Veheviu es achechem beis Yisrael," and you will. The pasuk says in Yeshaya, talking about these times, that you will bring your brothers Israel out of Galus. Shekol. We'll explain this soon. Shekol echad ve'echad me'akum. All of the different idolatrous peoples, each one of them, yaviu beyadam as beis Yisrael megalus, are going to take with their own hands. They're going to take Klal Yisrael out of Galus. Ribui hasimcha shiyeh. Why? Through the tremendous simcha that's going to be at that time. Like the pasuk says. So in other words, something like there's going to be such a revelation of Hashem in the world at that time. And we are going to be living in such a state of simcha that all of the nations that tried to oppress us and tried to enslave us and hurt us and keep us down are going to look and see. First of all, they're going to see Hashem in the world, and they're going to see our tremendous connection to Hashem and this powerful, amazing level of simcha. And because of that, they're going to take our hands and be like, okay, we want to be on board. We're going to take you, we're going to, like I always heard rabbis talking about this in the past, that when Mashiach comes, they're going to take all the first-class planes and get all the Jews all over the world and bring them out of Galus and fly them to Eretz Yisrael, right? Like the pasuk says in Tehillim, this is in the Shir Hamalis that non-Svardim sing on Shabbos before benching, right? Shir Hamalis. What do we say over there? Oz Yomru Bagoyim. Then it's going to be said Yomru Bagoyim. Then the Goyim will say, Higdil Hashem Lasos Yemeli. Hashem did so great with them. Hashem should also do great with us. And it says after that, Hayinu B'Smeichim. We were B'Simcha. This is what's going to be. We're going to be B'Simcha. V'ayudei Simcha Yisbatlu HaKlipas, and it's through Simcha that Klipa is wiped out, is nullified. The Bechinas, like the pasuk says. Now this is an interesting pasuk. We're going to try to pull all this together very shortly. V'yamadadehim b'chevel hashkev oisam arza, and he measured them with a rope, putting them down on the ground, making them lie down on the ground. V'zen, this, what does this mean? Moishchu, measure it. Hainu hamadida lakalos esam. It means measuring them to wipe them out. Okay, I know that doesn't mean anything, but let's explain it like this. Okay, so first of all, another one of the ingredients that we had over here with this whole channel that we were building was that we had the avos in there. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That was the Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, right? And the avos are called our chevel, our rope, our connector. And it's the three of them that make this three-stranded rope, right? The avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and their wives are the three strands of this rope. And so this is the thing that connects us with Hashem, connects us to the avos, and connects us to all of Jewish history. So listen to this. So he quotes Rashi over here, and he says, Rashi, I'm going to say in English, that this will take place amidst great joy and happiness, with musical instruments being played before them. So it means that what's going to be the big simcha? It's going to be because at that time, all of the klipa is going to be wiped out. All of those negative forces are going to be gone. We won't have to go down into the dark places in order to pull out the kedusha. It's going to be revealed everywhere. And because of that, it's going to be a world of simcha, a world of happiness. Nowadays, what do you got to do if you want to live a life of doing mitzvahs? Right? So we have to live in an illusion. We have to live in darkness and difficulty. We have to strive to have the energy to connect to Hashem. We have to make an effort. It's our avodah. We have to go and find ways to do good things, and to do chesed and to do mitzvahs. Right? We have to push ourselves. We have to do all this, and it's hard to find it. Right? And it makes it difficult, and we get oppressed. We get beaten down. We get put in all kinds of difficult situations. But if all that klipa was gone, all the illusion was gone, we would just see tremendous kedusha everywhere we looked. Everywhere. So in the future, that's what it's going to be. All the veil is going to be lifted. The darkness is going to be gone. We're going to see Hashem everywhere, right? Malei haaretz de'as Hashem, it says about that time, that the whole earth will be filled with knowledge of Hashem. Everything will be so clear, there'll be no darkness, no klippas holding us back. So it's going to be, everywhere we look, the biggest possible simcha imaginable. Right? Think about the biggest simcha you ever had in your life. The happiest you ever were in your entire life. Take the 100 happiest times of your entire life and take them all and compact them into one moment of absolute tremendous simcha and happiness. Right? That's going to be clear in front of our eyes at every moment in this time. So it's going to be a time of tremendous simcha. So there's going to be no more klipa, and this is what it's going to be. So, David HaMelech, the last pasuk is talking about David HaMelech. So, just like in the future, we're going to have this realm of absolute simcha, and it's going to be amazing, right? So he's saying that this rope of the future, it's like this amazing existence of the future, the ultimate redemption, the geula, where we're going to experience this on the highest level. It's like a rope that is drawn onto us now in this time, right? He brings down over here from another place in Rabbi Nachman, where he says, what does Hashem do when He wants to bring blessing and simcha onto a person? He draws it down onto that person from the future of post-geula existence, of after redemption existence. He pulls it to a person from that future place and draws it into that person. Rabbi Nachman says this. So the way Rabbi Nosson understands this over here is that this is why he's bringing this idea of the rope at the very end over here, and why it's talking about David HaMelech and it's talking about the future redemption, is because just like in the future it's going to be like that, when we do this now and we try to do a mitzvah b'simcha, we do our part, even in this place of Malchus, close to the Klippas, we do mitzvah b'simcha, we're attaching ourselves to this rope that goes right to the ultimate redemption. And we're able to draw some of that simcha into our now existence and do a mitzvah b'simcha and do something amazing together. And when we do that now, we pull the klipa that we're attached to up, and we raise everything up, and we cause this effect that we've been talking about for the last month or two, right? We cause this to happen. We cause ripples to go through the entire universes and everything until it gets to the point where we're receiving tremendous bracha, blessing, and we're drawing down, we're somehow connecting to the infinite we're connecting but not connecting to the infinite and having this totally amazing experience. We can do it if we just do this effort of making the mitzvah b'simcha by drawing, and by doing that we're connecting ourselves to the future redemption. We're kind of moving beyond time, really. We're just pulling ourselves out of this place. It's pretty amazing. So what's the story over here? It's similar over here. Why is he bringing this psukim of David HaMelech? That David HaMelech measured them with a rope, making them lie down on the ground. Listen to this. So when David HaMelech was fleeing from Shaul HaMelech, from King Saul, right? So he left his family with the people of Moab, the Moabites, and told them to guard his family while he's fleeing from Shaul HaMelech, from King Saul, right? So what happened? So the Moabites betrayed David HaMelech, and they killed his family. They killed his whole family. So later, when David HaMelech conquered them, he conquered the Moavim, the Moabites. So he had them measured, right? What does that mean? 2 measures of the people of Moab were put to death, and the remaining measure was forced to pay him an annual tribute as like a redemption for this, that they killed his family, right? So on a deeper level, he says that David HaMelech knew through this that it used to be that you were not allowed, before the times of David HaMelech, it was against the rules to have a war against Moab. Why? So on a deeper level, one of the reasons they say is that because Ruth HaMoaviyah, right, who converted from that nation, who became the maternal progenitor of David HaMelech, right, she needed to be pulled out from that place. See, it's a similar thing that's going on here. that spark of holiness of Rus had to be taken out from this terrible klipa place of Moab. And until that would happen, there couldn't be wars against them because that holiness was there. So once she came out though, and once David HaMelech came out now, and now they killed his parents, he realized that 2/3 of the holiness of Moab was already taken out when Rus came out from them. So now he wiped out 2/3 of them, and the 1/3 that remained, there was still holiness that needed to be drawn out from them. So they had to bring, their punishment for killing his family was they had to bring an annual tribute to him, the king of Klal Yisrael, like they're literally taking from this place of Klippa, this nation of Moab, and bringing their holiness, whatever holiness is in them, and giving it to David HaMelech, right? Doing this redemption. And this he called so with David HaMelech, right? He's called, one second. So he measured them, with a rope. He measured them with a rope, lied them down on the ground, and it's this rope that is called the chevel nachalasoi. The Klal Yisrael is called the rope of his inheritance, right? So with this aspect of the rope at the end of this Torah is this idea that what was David HaMelech doing? He was showing how you can pull up from the worst places, from the place of klipa, from the place of seemingly spiritual impurity and challenge and difficulty. When we find ourselves in those terrible, difficult, hard times, we have an ability to pull something out from there, which is the spark of holiness that is within that situation. Whether it's within that nation, whether it's within a certain place, whether it's within a certain challenge that we have, right? Whatever it is, we can take that out. But what do we have to do in order to do that? We have to connect ourselves with that rope back to the ultimate redemption. David HaMelech pulled it out there. David HaMelech is the place where Mashiach comes from, the ultimate redemption. We have to be connected with this rope to that place of the future. So Reb Nosson says, when we want to do this, we have to. When we want to live this existence and we want to accomplish these things, we find ourselves in a place and it's really hard. Something is really hard right now for me to do. Could be a mitzvah, could be a thing I have to get through, could be a character trait that I have to conquer, and it's really tough right now. It's really, really hard. I have to gather all the simcha I can. I have to gather my emunah and my simcha and say, okay, you know what? Hashem does not want me to be in a place of depression. He doesn't want me to be in a dirty place. He wants me to elevate, and he wants me to take whatever's here in this dirty place with me. So I'm going to draw all the simcha I can, and I'm going to do what I have to do right now, besimcha. And when I do that, I'm connecting myself to the absolute simcha that's going to be after Mashiach comes, when Hashem fills the whole world. And Hashem's going to give me, through that rope, a connection to it. And I'm going to be able to elevate the whole world. This is what the wise men of Athens didn't get. They heard what he was saying. They said, how could someone do such a thing? How could you do it? How could you elevate from the low places? And he said, you don't know, wise men of Athens. I'll tell you what it is. It's very simple. It's Yiddish simcha. It's doing things with simcha, being a person of happiness. This is how it's going to work. And through this, we'll get through. If you look on page 105 in this book, he brings something from Reb Nosson in Likutei Halachas, which we have in Hebrew, but I think it's a little simpler. We'll just read it in English here. So hear this, and we're getting close to the end over here. From Rabbi Nachman's teaching, we see that in the future, when the Jewish people permanently leave exile, their tremendous joy will destroy all the forces of evil in the world. The question is, what value does this have for us in the present? Who cares what's going to be in the future? What about right now? In this long exile, where sorrow abounds and grows daily, what can we do now to overcome our misfortunes and bring an end to our spiritual decline? So he brings from Rabbi Nachman's other teaching. This is lesson Reish Nun in Likutei Moharan. When God wishes to bring salvation to the Jewish people in the present, he shines upon them a light from the future, a light drawn from the final redemption. This is the meaning of what Rabbi Nachman teaches over here. Bring a rope. Bring joy from that future, attach somehow to that future. And he goes on to say that one of the things we have to do is we have to intellectualize, at the very least, the idea that there's going to be a gula, that there's a plan to the world. There's going to be a redemption. It's going to happen. We have to put that into ourselves. We have to know that for ourselves, so that when we get that implanted in our brains and we draw it in with emunah, and we say tefillahs about it, we daven it so it goes into our heart. We do whatever we can to live with this concept. I sound like a Lubavitcher now. We have to live geula, right? We talk about it all the time over here, right? We have to live with the concept that Mashiach's coming. We live with the concept that geula is going to come. There's going to be redemption. We're not going to be here forever, right? And then when we know that, we can draw that into our hearts to be able to do things with Simcha. But if we only see all the bad in the world and we don't see an end game, we don't see the future, a good future, it's very, very, very hard. Very, very hard, right? So the men of Athens said to him, who says you can do this? Who says that anyone is going to be able to, from the deep dark places, pull out sparks of holiness and bring the Kedusha out from there? B'simcha? Who says that anyone can do such a thing? So listen to what he says. These wise men represent alien philosophies and doubt. This is what's going to pull us down. If we get too far out into the realm of stupid stuff with our brains and too many rabbit holes and conspiracies and philosophies and this and that and all kinds of everything, we're going nonstop. Our brains are going to go crazy, right? And we get into doubts then. If we don't have emunah and we have doubt, what's going to be? They implant in our minds, who says so? This is what they said. And that goes into our minds. We start to think, who says it's possible? Who says that it's possible that I can do anything good right now? Who says it's possible that I can be b'simcha? Who says it's possible that I can actually get out from this place of klipa? They're implanting doubt into us. This is what they say to us. This is what the wise men of Athens are saying to us. Each of us questions whether we can ascend to any spiritual level. Am I ever gonna get on a higher spiritual level? Let alone the very lofty ones mentioned in this lesson. Self-doubt only leads to despair, adding sorrow to our already oppressive sorrow, exile to our already overburdening exile. Right? This just gives strength to the klipas. This gives strength to evil and does nothing for us. However, Rabbi Yeshua, the paradigmatic tzaddik, who always tries to encourage each Jew to ascend from his exile, counters the klipas by proclaiming that eventually God's redemption will come. It's going to be. Have emunah. You know it's happening. Eventually there will be great joy and happiness in the world, so that no Jew should never, ever despair. We can pull that simcha onto us at any time. And then from whatever challenge we're facing, if we live with this idea and if we put it onto our hearts all the time, we think about it, we're going to be able to do what we need to do b'simcha. And then we'll pull stuff up from the bed. We're not going to be pulled down, right? Evil's not going to pull us down. We're going to destroy evil. And we're going to pull the goodness out of the evil places we find ourselves. Someone once asked Rav Nosson, how can I be happy when I have so many problems and difficulties? How can I be happy when I have so many problems and difficulties? What did Rav Nosson say to them? He said, borrow it. Borrow the happiness. From our lesson, we can understand that what Rav Nosson meant was that we should borrow joy from the future redemption. Right? If I could say, just, going along with that, a general perspective that all of Rabbi Nachman's teachings lead us towards is to have emunah, and emunah should always be leading us to positivity, to thinking positive, to being a positive person, right? If I have emunah, that means that I know Hashem is with me. I know everything that happens to me is for a purpose. I know He's always guiding me the places I need to be. And when I have a difficulty, it's because there's something I have to work out, something I have to deal with. I have to work something out. I have to make a tikkun. who knows what it is. But there's something there for me and it's important. And I know that I'm going to get through it and that I'm going to get to a higher place. I know I'm going to get there. Even me in my life. I'm going to soon be done with this situation I'm dealing with and I'm going to get to a higher place. And I know it's going to happen. Just the same way that I know that, we're coming up close to 6,000 years of history, Jewish history, and we're almost at the end, and I know it's going to be there. And so because I know it's going to be there, and I know I'm going to get through this time, I know it's going to happen, right? I can draw that into myself. I can borrow that simcha for now. And not only that simcha that I borrow for now is going to allow me to elevate, to raise up, and is going to hasten my ability to get out from the place that I'm in now. If I do this with simcha, right? There's so many more things to say, but we're already at an hour now, and I suggest that everyone, if you have time, there's a book. So I have this here, Likutei Tefillas, which is all the prayers that Reb Nosson wrote about all the different lessons in the Likutei Moharan and other things also. But Baruch Hashem, the Breslov Research Institute has a translation of this, many volumes, at least some of them, and it's called, I think it's called the 50 Gates. 50 Gates? The 50th gate, or it's the 50 gates?
Do you have it here?
It's either 50 gates or the 50th gate. And it's English, where you can see this. If you look into this tefillah of Torah number Chaf Dalet 24, he goes into a lot of other things. But the main thing that he speaks about there is the importance of always trying to be b'simcha and asking Hashem to give us simcha, asking Hashem to take us out, when we do bad things, because we do, right? When we make mistakes and we do averas, we do things we're not supposed to do, it pulls us into klipa. It takes away our simcha. Please, Hashem, protect us from this. Help us to do tshuva. Help us to overcome our struggles so that we can be in a place of simcha, that we don't let those things pull us down. And when those things aren't pulling me down, and when I'm in a place, I'm able to be b'simcha, you know what? I can pull sparks of Kedusha up from here. You know what else I can do? I'm adding this in. When I'm in a place of simcha, I can pull people around me up. Right? And if I'm not, then I can pull people down, or I can be pulled down by other people. But if I gird myself with simcha, and I do everything I can to have emunah, to have simcha, and to daven it. And one of the things, of course, like we said throughout the whole lesson, he says, one of the keys is, I have to do hisbodedus, he says, in this tefillah. Give me the ability, Hashem, to go and contemplate and think and sort things out and speak to you and to be able to understand, if you talk for half an hour to Hashem about the fact that I want to be happy, and the fact that I know I'm going to get through this, and that I know there's going to be a future redemption. And if you talk to Hashem about this for half an hour, it's going to change your entire day. And if you do that for a few days in a row, oh boy, look out. Your whole week's going to change. And if you do it even more than that, your life is going to change. Right? He says, use the tool. What do we always say in these classes? We say, how are we going to accomplish these things? Take the tools that Rabbi Nachman gives us and use them. All the tools that he gives us work together. And we have to use those tools to be able to accomplish the simcha that's in this lesson. Mitzvah Hashem, when we do these together, we'll all be b'simcha together, and through that we'll pull Kedusha up together, and then we can pull each other up. We can lift each other up, we can do amazing things together, and Mitzvah Hashem will be able to grasp that infinite light in whatever possible way we can. And that's it for Torah Chaf Dalet. Once again, like we said in the beginning, this shiur was sponsored by Sandra Finkelstein in honor of her son Alec and his 21st birthday, Avram Kalman ben Shulamit Esther. Yes. God willing, he should have tremendous blessing, and Sandra should have tremendous nachas from Alec and her other son also. God willing, we should all experience bracha, nachas, and hasagas in Mitzvah Hashem.